dear friends. The Festival of Stars Meditation Hall, where we are now in Lower Hamlet, is full of shining faces. You are stars, and I see your mindfulness energy as you breathe in and out. And it's something very beautiful. This is a special weekend. Not only are we remembering our meditation patriarch who started our lineage of meditation in Vietnam and also in southern China, but it's also the weekend when we remember our ancestors. It's the weekend of Toussaint. And here in France, people go to the cemeteries to offer flowers, chrysanthemums to the members of their families who have passed away. And Thai created a tradition for us to also do that, because all of the hamlets where we're living and practicing now were once homes to the farmers, to the people who lived in this area many, many years ago. And they are the land ancestors for us. So we remember them at this time with a lot of gratitude, and we bring pots of beautiful chrysanthemum flowers, and we place them on the tombs of the people who lived in the homes where we are now living. And we offer them our gratitude for their protection, their support, and their strength. It's also another wonderful week because we have with us 70 members of the Order of Interbeing in France, Switzerland, and Belgium roots, I'm sure, who are practicing with us in the new hamlet. And it's a wonderful moment today and this whole week to be together, to practice together as brothers and sisters on the path, as the Sangha. It's also another day to celebrate because last night we turned the clock back 1 hour. So we had 1 more hour of sleep. Friday was the full moon. So many wonderful things to smile at and to be happy about. The chant that we sang about Meditation Master Tang Hoy was one of Thai's favorites. And I'll take a few moments now to just review his amazing life. The song was written by students of Thais, and we'll discover some wonderful insights in the song. We learned that Tang Hoy's mother her homeland was in Vietnam. However, his father's homeland was in the north of India. And during his life of practice and teaching, it is said that he sowed the seeds of meditation in the north of Vietnam and also in the south of China. So he was the first to bring the Buddhist practice to China in the 3rd century. And 300 years later, approximately, Bodhidharma came from India and also brought the Buddhist teachings to China, northern China. And from then, the teachings have continued. And Tang Hoy's life continued, and he became an orphan when he was 10 years old. Both his parents died, and he went to live in a temple. So it was 800 years after the Buddha's enlightenment that this little 10-year-old boy lit up the lamp of bodhicitta, the mind of love in his heart. And 18 centuries later, his insight still inspires us and many people in dark places of the world with his writings about meditation practice. So his teachings are like the perfume. The fragrance is so beautiful in Vietnam, of course, and in other countries, like where we are now. Thai taught the teachings of Master Tang Hoy, and he is now our patriarch. The one sutra that was so influential in Thai's teachings, but also for Dhyana Master Tang Hoy, was the Anapanasati Sutra, the sutra on the full awareness of breathing that the Buddha taught, with 16 breathing exercises that help us in all aspects of our life. We can find a breathing exercise that will help us understand change, impermanence. There's a breathing exercise that will help us when we feel an emotion, such as anger or fear. A breathing exercise will help us calm our body and mind. So the Anapanasati Sutra was one that the Master Tang Hoy respected and loved a lot, to the extent that he wrote an introduction to this sutra with 3 Chinese laymen. And it's practiced and as a path of for bodhisattvas. Be a bodhisattva, we want to save and help all living beings. So it's part of the Mahayana later development of Buddhism. So the other part of the song talks about Plum Village. And it says, from the Dharma Cloud Temple, that's Upper Hamlet, the wheel of the Dharma has been turned to bring peace and happiness to many people. Who do you think turned the wheel of the Dharma in Upper Hamlet? For 40 years. It was Thai's teachings. When spring comes, the wisdom tree blossoms with the fruits of love and compassion. So in the springtime, Upper Hamlet is very beautiful. And Thai's teachings spread the fruits of love, compassion, and peace. And they were nourishing, they fed us with his teachings. The Dharma rain waters the hot and dry lands everywhere. Thai talked about the Dharma as the rain, that the words of the Dharma just penetrate our consciousness, even if we fall asleep during the Dharma talk. Thai saw that during many summer retreats especially, children sprawled out, sleeping, teenagers sleeping, older people sleeping, everyone didn't sleep, but we saw sleeping. And Thai would say, don't worry, the Dharma rain is penetrating your consciousness because the ears are always open to receive sounds the words of the Dharma. In springtime, thousands of daffodils and sunflowers rise up to welcome the early morning. We saw this, and we still see it in Upper Hamlet, and it's part of the song. These flowers rise up following the Anapanasati Sutra. They breathe together, and they show the miracles of life. The sky in Upper Hamlet and in this area is very huge, filled with clouds. They float gently. The full moon shines on the path of meditation, leading us to our true home. Life after life, with deep gratitude, we respectfully bow to you, the first patriarch of the Vietnamese meditation tradition, Venerable Master Kung Tang Hoy. So friends, this has been a little sharing about the beautiful chant that we heard, the words in the chant that describe his life and the result of Thay's teaching and the beauties that evolved here in Plum Village and in Upper Hamlet during the time of Thay's teaching us. Dhyana Master Tang Hoy, in his introduction to the Anapanasati Sutra, wrote this. This is the first sentence. Mindfulness of breathing is the great vehicle used by Buddhas who wish to help living beings who are drowning, bobbing up and drowning in the ocean of suffering. That's very powerful. And that image is especially painful as we know how the oceans have received the people who drowned in our recent times. Mindfulness of breathing has the capacity to calm us, to heal us, and to save us. This Rains Retreat, we are continuing our theme that Thay introduced and taught to us 15 years ago in the Rains Retreat of 2008, 2009. And it's about global spirituality and ethics. Now we are revisiting his teachings and reflecting on global spirituality and ethics for our current world situation in the year 2023. I'm going to list some of the sources of our suffering now, and I know it won't be new. Perhaps as members of the Order of Interbeing, you've kept in touch with what's happening in the world and the suffering. All of us, you don't have to be a member, but it's quite evident. There is a sutra that I want to read a few sentences, and it's called The Discourse on the Transformation of Violence and Fear. And it actually comes from a very early sutras, a little bit after the time of the Buddha. It's from the Sutta Nipata, the sutta based, corresponding to the Sutta Attadanda, the Sutta Nipata, verses 935 to 954, in the Pali um, canon, and in the Chinese Agamas, it's number 16 of the Arthapada, Taisho 198. And here are the first two verses. Let us listen and observe in order to understand how, from a state of happiness and well-being, people have led society into a state of terror and violence. How have past generations acted so that the situation has become as it is now? The sutra continues, I want to talk to you now of this sufferance, of this suffering, and to tell you how I succeeded in freeing myself from fear. We know there's a lot of fear now. The second verse. People in the world experience one suffering after another, like a fish living in a pond where the level of the water is slowly going down each day, becoming drier and drier. In a situation of suffering, violent thoughts come up so easily. And by ignorance, people, they look for a way to relieve their suffering by terrorizing and punishing others. This was written centuries and centuries ago. And now it seems to be very relevant for what we're facing right now. So, dear friends, please buckle your seatbelt of mindful breathing, because I'm going to start with the bad news. So we'll have an awareness of the suffering that is there. However, please feel reassured that we have our practices, and there are ways to handle the suffering. And the whole talk won't be about this, but I'm going to start, okay? Because Thai talked about the stress and the suffering 15 years ago, but let's see what's happening now. So we have wars, 2 wars right now, involving 4 big countries. And as this morning, one of the leaders of the country said that he thought that the war would be very long and difficult. So there's polarization now, people who support one side or the other of the warring countries, 4 countries. There's the climate crisis. We've witnessed devastating fires, floods, hurricanes, typhoons, tornadoes, the melting of ice caps in the north and south hemispheres, melting of snow on the beautiful mountains. There have been earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, dryness, lack of rain, failure of crops, hunger, famine. Let's breathe for a minute, because I'm beginning to feel really unpleasant, and perhaps you also. Let's just stop for a minute. And we'll apply Master Tang Hoy's practice, mindfulness of breathing. Let's just breathe in and out. There's more, a little bit more. We'll have a sound of the bell. listen, listen. This wonderful sound brings me back to my true home. There is peace and safety in my true home. Let us just be aware of our body. Feel our body. The breath entering and leaving gently. We breathe peacefully and gently. And it's possible. Breathing in, I'm aware of my body. Breathing out, I relax and comfort my body. So we're aware now, continue to be aware of the presence of discrimination, social injustice, abuse, killing in schools now. The students are witnessing their teachers being killed. There are attacks in small schools, small towns. There are deadly viruses now. Deaths, suicides, a lot of grieving, trauma. There's a situation of refugees that has not occurred to this extent as far as I know. The United Nations High Commission on Refugees says there's 117 million refugees in the world. And 43 million refugees are children. In the past, I remember we could go to the movies and see a movie about war, all of that, whatever. And then walk out of the movie theater, and the movie would be over. We walk away from the screen, where there's no more fighting and war. But now we cannot walk away or go anywhere in some countries to find a peaceful environment. Because the war, the bombings, the missiles, the fires are in daily environments. I'm almost done, okay? I promise you. Our experience now, as I see it, and I know my view is probably wrong, but that we are living in a time when there are many critical problems and sources of suffering, but there are no solutions to these problems because they continue. However, on a small scale, there are solutions in our families, our communities, at work, in our relationships. We do create solutions. We do resolve problems with our practices of deep listening, understanding, compassion, using loving speech, and all of the practices that Thai has taught us, and our practice of the mindfulness trainings, the 5 and the 14. Solutions are possible for us in our daily life. So we have these two situations. We affirm solutions are possible for us in daily life. This gives us hope and confidence. But on a much larger scale, we see there do not appear to be many solutions, and we can feel helpless. We want to change things. Now, the good news is that the Buddha found a solution. He found a solution to suffering. And this was revolutionary. He discovered a way to transform suffering or ill-being into well-being and happiness. Let's have a look at the Buddha's enlightened understanding on how to do this. And he shared this with his 5 friends. So, thank you. I found a solution to walking down the stairs. My dear sister was there. And this, in a sense, summarizes how we can find solutions. Be there for one another. And this is our practice as friends, as Sangha, that we are there for one another. We offer our hand. We offer a helping hand, as my sister is doing now. We just get up and help. It's our mind of love, our bodhicitta. So, let's see what the Buddha suggested as a way to end suffering. But before we can end suffering, we have to recognize suffering is there. There is suffering. So this is the first thing the Buddha wanted us to see. We can call it ill-being, okay? We've all been suffering a little bit hearing the bad news, but the bad news was the cause of our feeling unpleasant. So suffering has causes. These are called roots, the roots of suffering. Now, if we stop feeding the causes of suffering, if we stop nourishing the roots of suffering, imagine a big tree, and the tree has many roots, right? And the many roots of a tree bring up the moisture, the minerals, the sources of nutriment to the whole tree. Now, if we can see what is nourishing my suffering, what is contributing, and usually there's more than one cause, well, then there's a chance that suffering will stop. And the Buddha discovered there are 8 right practices that will transform suffering. Let's have a look at these 8 right practices. And the 8 right practices are right view. Maybe my view about the situation or people has something to do with the suffering right now. Discrimination, prejudice, the belief that war is necessary, that's a view. Okay, my view will influence my thinking, right? Thinking, okay, well, if I stop thinking, for example, thinking negative thoughts, stop thinking about how someone hurt me, if I stop thinking about anything that makes me feel unpleasant, if I stop this thinking, which is a root, the suffering won't be there, won't be so strong. Okay, right view, right thinking, right speech, that's the way I'm speaking. Okay, I can think these thoughts, but I don't have to speak out. I don't have to criticize. I don't have to blame. There was a wonderful abbot of the Sanha temple, and he was very skillful. He wanted to help the young monks, the young novices in the Sanha temple a number of years ago, when he saw that, they could maybe be a little more mindful when closing the door or eating their meals. He saw things that could be improved. But his practice was, he told us, I connect before I correct. He created a relationship with the brother first, and he didn't correct the same day. The first day he said, hello, how are you doing? He was a good friend. I mean, he created this a bond, a link, that he really cared about the brother. And then another day he would say, I have done this in a different way. So then he offered the correction in a friendly way. Connect before correcting. Right view, right thinking, right speech, right action, okay. And many of you may know these 8 right practices called the Noble Eightfold Path. Right effort or diligence. This is our steady practice in terms of us as meditators. And Sister Chanduk invited us to do uninterrupted practice of mindfulness. So we do it in a daily way, in a way where we can still feel comfortable. We don't stress out. We're trying to do too much, becoming too mindful where we're tense all the time. But be gentle practice, right effort. Now, I'll have to start here. Right livelihood, okay. And this is where how we earn our living is in a way that doesn't harm people or the earth. It doesn't create suffering. Right mindfulness. And then right concentration. Okay. Now, all of these practices help one another. They inter-are. And we can't say that if I do right thinking, that's enough. So we want to bring right mindfulness to be present so I can recognize the nature of my thoughts. And if you were to ask me who is the mommy and daddy of the 8 right practices, or daddy or mommy, doesn't matter, but I would say right mindfulness and concentration. I would call them mommy and daddy. So when they are present, then the other right practices are more likely to have more insight. When I'm mindful about how I'm speaking, my speech can be more loving. When I have more concentration, which contains mindfulness, it's just mindfulness applied over a longer period. When I have more concentration, my actions may be more effective. I will not harm. So this is just a brief presentation. The Buddha found a way, a solution to suffering. Now it's not complete, because the good news in all of this is these 8 right practices will lead to the transformation of suffering. And what happens when we transform suffering? We have happiness. So, these are known as the 4 Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. Let us remember everything changes. So on the board it looks like this. In our real life, there are changes and variations. Happiness may not last. And then we ask why. Oh, we can have a look at the 8 practices. Where can I improve? To remove the root or the cause of suffering. Happiness is well-being. All right, so let's have a look at well-being now. How can I increase my well-being? Well, why don't I look at the 8 right practices and amplify, increase the way I speak, and make it more skillful, more loving, have more compassion in my thinking, have more love and understanding in my thinking, so that I'll be able to speak more lovingly and listen more deeply. There are many ways to present this and to understand the Buddha's solution to suffering and how to create well-being. But we know conditions change, and there will be sometimes cessation of happiness, but there's also the cessation of suffering. And a lot depends on our daily practice, practicing with friends and with the Sangha. The word friends is very important. The Buddha had 5 friends. And if it's okay, can I erase this? We practice impermanence. Okay, impermanence. Oh, this is a modern eraser. It really sticks to the board. And it's hard. Maybe it's me. I'm weak. The board, everything's okay. It's me. Now that's a good attitude to always consider it's not the other thing's fault, it's me. But anyway, I managed. Mitra is the word for friend in Sanskrit. And the Buddha was once asked by Ananda, is having a friend at least half of my practice so I can succeed in my practice? Half of the practice. The Buddha said, no, Ananda, no. It's the whole of your practice. It's all of your practice to have friends on the path. And we create these friendships and we sustain them. First of all, we have the 5 and the 14 mindfulness trainings. To know this will cause suffering. Aware of the suffering caused. Each training begins with awareness of the suffering, the causes, and then Thai has given us the 8 right practices that will give us happiness in each of the trainings. It's a treasure hunt. Please look for that. All the trainings will give us that. We'll find beautiful jewels of ways to end the suffering. It's the Easter egg hunt. We find beautiful eggs of wisdom, beautiful colors of understanding and compassion in the mindfulness trainings, the 5 and the 14, and then other trainings. The mindfulness trainings are not commandments. The 10 commandments given to Moses, I believe, in the Old Testament, thou shalt not kill, steal, engage in an adultery, etc. But these are not the commandments. These are guidelines for us in our daily life to understand ourselves. And it's not about obeying, it's about understanding, love and compassion, leading to peace, leading to well-being. And we know in our sanghas the friendship is something to cultivate with our presence, our understanding, getting to know one another better. We do this here in Plum Village, in our monastic sangha, in our relationships. And when our lay friends come, it's a joy for us. When our Order of Interbeing members are here, we see it's an expression of their bodhicitta, their wish to help, to serve, to be engaged, to help just one little group, which is the monastics, 1 week, 2 weeks, summer. And it's being together as a spiritual family. And this creates well-being, trust, confidence, and gives us the encouragement to continue. The Buddha did offer a teaching on ethics. It's a very early teaching, and it's found in the discourse on love. He begins by saying, he or she who wants to attain peace should practice loving speech, being humble, and not carried away by the emotions of the majority. He or she who wants to attain peace should practice being humble. No, it's in the sutra. Okay, excuse me, humble, and be able to speak lovingly. Capable of using loving speech, and he or she will know how to live simply, with senses calmed, without being carried away by the emotions of the majority. And here is his teaching on ethics. Let no one do harm to anyone. Let no one put the life of anyone in danger. Let no one, out of anger or ill will, wish anyone any harm. And then he gives the example of a mother who loves her only child. We should offer our boundless love to the whole universe. And he's encouraging us to develop the qualities of love. Our boundless love, above, below, and across. Our love will have no boundaries. Our love will be free from hatred and enmity, whether standing, sitting, walking, lying down. We should keep in mind this love in our heart. This is the noblest way of living. So it's wonderful to learn of the first teachings of ethics that we can adapt for our lives. Now, can we offer love if we don't feel love? Can we send this metta energy? It's similar to the teachings of Jesus when he talked about love in the Bible. And it was agape. It was universal love, the highest form of love. And the two teachings and the two traditions are very similar. Now, how can we do that? I propose that even if we don't actively feel love, and we may be expecting to feel romantic love, but it's not romantic love. It's a kind of benevolence. It's a kind of wish for the other person to be happy and peaceful. May you be happy and peaceful. So it's just wishing well to the other person, to the other people. Even the presidents engaged in wars. May you be happy and peaceful. May your hearts be filled with love. Now, this is something we can do. And I have found it best if I don't expect myself to be overflowing with romantic love, because it doesn't happen so often, right? Maybe it does for some people. I don't know. But I don't set that as a criteria. I have to be madly in love in order to send metta. I think it's a little bit different. It's just your wishes for the other person to be happy, to find a way out of their situation of suffering. And we can use this practice on a daily basis. And it's something I know helps. So we're sending our energy of goodwill and love and wish for the other person, people, situations. And this energy of well-being and kind thoughts will reach the others. But we don't expect it will completely change the situation in one day. So I would say it could be a practice for more than one day. But keep doing it. Don't expect to see results, because the results are not always visible. It's on another level, a level of energy. And mindfulness is an energy. Love is an energy. Hatred is an energy. And this love, this metta, this agape, is the counter force to hatred, to vengeance. And it will help our mind, first of all, because when we're thinking these thoughts, may you be happy and peaceful, we start with ourselves. May I be happy and peaceful. At this moment, my mind is thinking very wholesome thoughts, kusala, very wholesome thoughts. I'm bringing up the seeds of love and peace that are stored in my consciousness, yeah? It is said that our mind, we cannot see it. We cannot hear it. We cannot recognize it. It has no form. But the mind is an aggregate of seeds in the store consciousness. And it's a field in which all these seeds are stored. Mind is a field in which all the seeds are stored. Seeds of love, seeds of peace, seeds of forgiveness, seeds of happiness. Yes. So when we think the thought of well-being and love, and we send it to someone, at that moment, my mind is full of love and compassion, and this energy is sent. So it's a wonderful practice. Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay? So we want to consider adopting this practice on a daily basis for yourself and your loved ones. We have other practices that Thai has given us, and the important thing to remember is that there are many practices. There's a choice of so many. The basic practice for us, for me of course, is to take a few moments each day, simply to sit down. And sit down, breathe, be fully in the present moment, and be with my body. And I want to share with you one experience where I found this really true. It was when I had learned and spent time with social media, finding out what's happening in the world, so I could send metta. And afterwards I thought, no, this is too much. I feel helpless. I can't do anything. So I was with my unpleasant feelings, and then I went out on the veranda, and I saw a blue plastic chair, and the sun was just shining on the chair. It was so beautiful. So I decided, I'm going to sit on the chair. And I did that. I just sat on the chair, and I felt the warmth of the sun. And I just sat there. And I said, I'm going to sit and let the sun warm me up. And it was just a beautiful moment with the sun, feeling the warmth of the sun, and I let go of all the thinking. I had only the experience of the sunlight. And it was very, very healing. So I learned from this how simple it can be, really. During the time I was fully in the present moment, feeling the sunshine, I didn't think. I let go of everything. So I stopped, I sat down, and I just breathed in and out with the sun. These were the three practices. stop, sit down, and breathe. And while I was very grateful to the sun, I thought, dear sun, it's not your fault we have global warming. You're just being the sun. It's what we have done to create the conditions for global warming. It's not your fault, dear sun. And I also remembered a very short poem. And every morning I recite, of course, Thai's Gata for waking up. Waking up this morning, I smile. 24 brand new hours are before me. I vow to live them mindfully and to look on all beings with eyes of compassion. It's a wonderful way to start the day. When I was sitting on the blue plastic chair, embraced by the sun, I thought of another short poem. And it's this. Hello, sun. Hello, hello, sun. Sun in my face. You who made the morning and spread it over the fields. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness. And this short poem I discovered was written by the late Mary Oliver. Yeah, so it's a very beautiful short poem that I consider a little gata. So that's what I did when I just felt overwhelmed. I sat down and I was just fully with my body and the breathing, letting go of thinking. Now we may be in zones where there's not much sun anymore, but Thai loved listening to the rain. And Thai named listening to the rain veranda. And he loved just sitting still, just listen to the rain. No need to think. Be fully present with Mother Earth. She is there always offering her beauty. I want to share another experience when I was thinking about harmony. Harmony in relationships, and how can we have harmony and understanding? How can whatever difficulties be resolved and all that. They pop up, these challenges. That morning, I woke up and I remembered that, we must drink water in the morning because our body has been functioning and all the organs, metabolism, all night long, 6 hours, 7 hours without water. So I read that you should drink room temperature water. So so I had my glass of room temperature water and I took a sip. Ooh, it's cold. Well, my room was cold. So I decided, no, that's not too good for me to drink room temperature water. So I had my thermos. And I decided, well, I'll add a little hot water to the cold room temperature water in another glass. And then the water was warm. And I thought, the hot water didn't mind becoming warm. It didn't mind changing. The cold water didn't mind losing its coldness to become warm. So I thought, well, that's the solution. We simply don't mind changing. We don't hold on to being hot water or cold water. we're not caught in our view of who we are. The hot water didn't say, leave me alone, I'm hot water. I don't want to change. I don't want to be cool water. Cold water didn't say, get away from me, hot water. I want to stay cool water. It didn't happen. They merged. They were both water. Yeah. There was interbeing, interpenetration. And you know, we human beings were mostly water. Isn't that true? Wow, why don't we just act like hot water and cold water? My brothers and sisters in different countries, stop the war. You're just hot and cold water. You know. Well, let's get along. Let's harmonize. It's possible. So, letting go of ideas, letting go of our views, and these are important in the mindfulness trainings for certainly the order of interbeing. Awareness of suffering, letting go of these views, attachment to views, and all of that. We can live peacefully. Remember the hot, cold water transformation. So there was peace, and I was able to enjoy the warm water, and it helped my body. About views, there is a little cartoon I want to share with you. Sometimes we have perceptions, and we hold on to our perception about someone, a situation, whatever. And we don't question the perception we have. And this may be one of the causes for war, for whatever, for suffering. Now, regarding perceptions, I remembered I saw once in a magazine, I'm sorry I don't remember the name of the magazine, but there was a drawing of a man, a middle-aged man, reading a newspaper, sitting in a chair in the living room. His wife was sitting in the chair in the living room, knitting. The two kids were sitting in chairs in the living room. In the middle of the living room was a big elephant, an enormous elephant. But no one said anything about the elephant in the living room. They kept silent. There's a big elephant in the living room, and no one says a word. They accept it. Now, maybe this has some application to our lives. We don't say anything. There's a big elephant, and we life carry on. There's nothing wrong. There's no elephant. No. But you can't mistake. There's a big elephant in the living room, and it wasn't there before. So, a way to practice with perceptions and not having courage to question or not wanting to question is that in this situation, maybe the wife could have said to her husband, "Darling, I see a big elephant in our living room. Do you see it too?" You check perception. "Darling, do you see the big elephant?" And then she will look for her husband's response. And then she could say, "Darling, was there an extra elephant at the university and you brought it back? Or at the zoo? An extra elephant, you brought it back for us?" Well, but that's at least asking. Why? why something is this way. Why is there an elephant? Well, the husband could have said, my dearest, I see a big elephant in the living room. Do you see it too? So we're checking perceptions. Does the other person see what I see? Think the way I think, etc. Feel the way I feel? Darling, is there any food in the kitchen that we can give the elephant? Okay, acknowledging the presence of the elephant and feeding it. The two kids can say, Mommy and Daddy, you're saying there's no elephant in the living room, but we see the droppings on the carpet. So that's telling the reality, what we see. So this is just an example from a cartoon I saw in a magazine, and I thought it's nice to have this image of a big elephant as something enormous, a big problem, something no one wants to talk about. Could be a little problem, doesn't have to be a big elephant. It could be, who let the cat in the house? Why is there a snake? It doesn't have to be a big elephant. It could be something else. But to open up conversation, to open up the possibility of talking about things. And this is really important, we find, for giving everyone a chance to speak from their heart, to be listened to. And we do this in our sanghas, in our communities. And just to be heard is healing. To be understood is healing. And this is really our practice of communication. Knowing that we can share from our heart our appreciations of one another. So important. Thank you. I love you very much. And then to be able to say, well, I'm sorry I made a mistake. I'm really sorry that I said that. And if you feel hurt, I want to offer you my deepest commitment that I won't do that again. I'll do my best not to water your seeds of suffering. And then we can talk about the big elephant, the challenging situation. Yeah. So others will know, I have a big elephant in my heart, a big problem, something. And solutions are found in our sanghas, in our families where we're practicing. We have the aspiration to understand, to love one another, to forgive. And so these solutions can be found in a collective way. So we are a collective. The consciousness is collective for metta. The individual consciousness is also part of the collective consciousness. And in the world right now, it seems that the solution for anger, hatred, and violence is our collective consciousness, our sanghas, our friends, that we act from a place of love and understanding of one another, creating friendships. And it's so wonderful that that something as simple as friendship is the beginning of healing. I want to say something that is so beautiful. The French writer said, "Please don't walk in front of me. I may not follow. Please don't walk behind me. I may not lead you. But just walk by my side and be my friend." And this is what we saw Thai practicing always. he led us in walking meditation, and we followed Thai. We followed in his footsteps. Sometimes the children would run ahead of Thai, and then Thai followed the children. But always on each side of Thai, he held the hands of the children, and he walked alongside them as their friend. And it was Albert Camus who said this, the French writer and philosopher. So we walk alongside one another, behind one another, in front of one another in our walking meditation. So let us continue to practice this in different ways. The walking ahead, behind, alongside of. It's very beautiful. If all of our suffering has not been transformed by the beginning of the talk, which was bad news, we want to move on now to some good news. And some sisters in the New Hamlet will come up now and offer a song which is Thai's poem about the good news. And it's been put to music, and so we hope you will feel that whatever suffering was there with the bad news at the beginning will be transformed now by the music and the poetry of Thai. I also want to give you some good news, is that Parallax Press for the month of November is offering free ebooks on the theme, books that concern how we can create more peace. For example, Peace Begins Here, which is a book written about the Israeli-Palestinian retreat we had here a number of years ago. Suko Chung Kong's book, Learning True Love. It's a beautiful book about practicing in the situation of war, and how the order of interbeing was born at that time. The mindfulness trainings written by Thai at that time, they're still practiced. And now the order of interbeing is growing. And your engagement, your commitment to continue is what is so important. Don't give up. We rely on you out there. People come to us here at Plum Village, and our capacity is based on the space. But we know you are out there. You're leading retreats, helping people, listening, offering practices, and this is so important. Your commitment. Your service to us is immense. Out there, but even short visits here. And we are going to try to practice on our end to be hot water, cool water, blending and mixing to make your visits more possible. Where both sides are merging and making visits more feasible, more possible for everyone concerned. So we help one another immensely. It's your bodhicitta, your mind of love, that heals and that keeps Thai's teachings alive. After this, we'll have walking meditation to continue to transform whatever suffering is there. I hope not, but we still have walking meditation, and then we'll have the formal lunch. We'll return to the hall and eat together, as they did in the time of the Buddha. And after the formal lunch, we will meet the aspirants whom their Sangha has decided, the Hamlets, this is the right time for their ordination as novices. So the novice ordination will be next Sunday, and they will come forward, their mind of bodhicitta, present And they will hold a flower and offer their commitment, their mind of love to continue the path of practice in the Sangha. So this is what we will look forward to in a little while. And the words are perhaps on the screen for you to see and to read as the sisters are playing the poem of Thai. So thank you, dear friends, for your listening, and let's hear some good news.
They don't publish the good news. The good news is published by us. A special edition every moment. We need you to read it. They only print what is wrong. Look at our special editions. We offer things that are not wrong. We want you to protect them. The good news is you're alive. The lemon tree has bloomed. Do you see it has the courage, standing firm in the harsh winter? The good news is you're alive. The good news is your eyes touch the blue sky. The good news is your beloved is there before you to be embraced in your arms. They only print what is wrong. Look at our special editions. We offer things that are not wrong. We want you to protect them. The good news is you're alive. The dandelion by the sidewalk is smiling to you, singing the song of eternity. Listen, you have ears to hear it. Bow your head, listen to it. Leave behind the world of sorrow and be free. The good news is you're alive. The good news is your eyes touch the blue sky. The good news is your beloved is there before you to be embraced in your arms. Peace is always in you.
Thank you, dear friends, for being with us this morning. We wish you many days, many months, many years of living the good news. So let us continue today being together in friendship, in love, in peace, and in mindful breathing, mindful walking. Thank you.